On Sunday, the Gators landed their first 2025 offensive lineman when four-star prospect Peyton Joseph pledged to Billy Napier and the UF staff. But the Gators, they're just getting started when it comes to offensive line recruiting. And in this video, we're going to find out what other elite offensive linemen the Gators are chasing. I got the great Keith Niebuhr on this video to break it all down. But first, UF fans, do me a favor right now and hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're talking Gator recruiting all offseason. We need you to be a part of it. So go ahead, hit subscribe for me, please. All right. Please bring on Keith Niebuhr. There he is. All right, Gator offensive line targets. Michael Fasusi sits there at the top. He's the lone five-star we're going to talk about today. And, you know, honestly, the Gators were sitting in pretty good shape after that November visit. How are things now that Darnell Stapleton is out of Gainesville?
Yeah, I mean, he was close with Darnell Stapleton, who was one of Florida's two offensive line coaches until he left a week ago for a job with the Washington Commanders of the NFL. But he's also has a good relationship with Rob Sale, the remaining offensive line coach. We don't know yet as we record this whether Florida's going to hire a second offensive line coach again or go in a different direction. But he does have a good relationship with Rob Sale, and Florida is hanging around. They're going to try to get him back on campus or are going to continue to try to get him back on campus and see what happens. But right now, I think most of the chatter is about Texas and Oklahoma. And him being out in Texas, I think that's going to look, it's going to be a difficult pull. But if you're
Is
Florida,
there a DJ Lagway connection there, though, with him being in Texas?
Yeah, I mean, he knows who he is, but I think that can be sort of overblown, too. I mean, by the time DJ Lagway plays his first snap for the Gators, presumably this fall, many of these prospects from Texas in this class will already have picked a home. So, you know, they know who he is. They're familiar with him, but ultimately kids are going to do what they want to do. And listen, going far away for a quarterback, and obviously Texas isn't that far away, but leaving home and going a moderate distance from your high school to play college football for a quarterback is a lot different than other positions. They go all over the place. And sometimes offensive tackles do too. And he's a very good player, and Florida's worked on him very hard. Look, Josh, they're in the conversation. I just wouldn't say they're the team to beat.
I gotcha. Well, if he makes that official visit, then I kind of, I start liking the Gators' chances a little bit more there. So let's move into the state of Florida. Let's talk about interior offensive lineman Max Buchanan. He goes 6'4", 275, and he is locked into an official visit to UF. Who else is in the mix here for Buchanan?
Yeah, first of all, he's a great-looking prospect on the hoof. I think he's bigger, Josh, than that 6'4", 275. We saw him at a camp a week and a half ago in Orlando, and he is just – I mean, he looks like an SEC Power 5 type guy right now. So, first of all, you love that piece of clay. Now, with regards to his recruitment, I think, he's got official visits set to Florida, Clemson, and UCF. And, UCF is a dark horse here.
Yeah.
They're starting to – now that they're a Power 5 program, they're starting to recruit more like one, and he's right in their backyard. So I think they're going to have to be contended with. There's going to be a lot of other schools as well. He's too good of a player. But right now, Florida is a top contender. Again, you're going to hear this name a good bit. Rob Sale, the remaining offensive line coach at Florida, has done an outstanding job getting in and building a relationship with Max Buchanan. And he's a top target for the Gators, and they're high on his board too. So I think that's a guy that Florida has a realistic shot with. But we're going to need to see how his official visits go, obviously.
All right, let's move back out to the offensive tackle spot, Zier Addison. Now, this is another in-state name. He's from Riverview, Florida, just about 2.5 hours from Gainesville. And this seems to be an in-state battle forming between FSU, Miami, and Florida. How do you see this one kind of shaping up right now?
Yeah, I think most people would agree right now Florida State's probably the team to beat, Josh. But a couple things working in Florida's favor. One, they have a huge need, of course everybody does, at offensive tackle, right? He could play guard or tackle. He could play both, Josh. So if you're Florida, you can say, hey, look, probably can get you on the field pretty early because you have that position flexibility. And then also Florida just signed one of his former teammates, Gregory Smith, a 4-star safety at Sumner High School. So look, when he visits Florida, he's going to have a friendly face there. It's not going to just be the coaches. It's going to be a guy on the team who is going through all the offseason battles right now and will be playing games for the Gators this fall. So I think that helps as well. But again, right now, most eyes are on FSU, and we'll see how hard Florida pushes. And if they do push hard, and we think they might, can they move up that ladder with him?
Yeah, I have a feeling that as spring and summer goes on, that recruitment of Zier Addison is only going to heat up because, like you said, there's not a ton of offensive linemen in the state of Florida, and when you find a good one, it generally becomes a big three battle. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, Josh, and one other thing, when you go to spring practices or when he goes to spring practices, so when he gets up to Gainesville, let's say, he's not only going to get to watch his friend practice, Gregory Smith, the safety, he's then going to get to see DJ Lagway practice.
Right.
And we talk about what DJ Lagway does on the field next fall mattering, and I know I'm sort of talking in circles here, a little bit contrary to what I just said with regards to Fasucci, the offensive tackle out of Texas, but Zier Addison will be able to go to Florida practices this spring and get a feel for the guy he may be blocking for at the quarterback position. And then he can also get feedback from Gregory Smith, again, the former teammate, who, by the way, in a short period of time has bonded pretty well with DJ Lagway. So it could be a guy that Florida rises with. But again, Florida State probably, I think most people think, sitting in a good spot right now, but it's only February.
Yeah, and like you said, those spring practices are going to be vitally important. If Zier Addison is going up to Tallahassee, he's going to have to drive past Gainesville to do so. So I do think the Gators are in line for some visits this spring. We'll see how that recruitment develops. Tavarstyson, Fairburn, Georgia. If you're going to go into the state of Georgia, you want to go after a prospect that looks like Dice. 6'6", 275 pounds, athletic, versatile offensive lineman. Auburn trending early on the recruiting prediction machine. Keith, we saw a lot of Florida-Auburn battles, especially in the trenches last cycle. Do you agree with the RPM right now with Auburn in the lead? And if you do you think UF has a chance here to make up some ground?
I think UF has a chance, but Josh, he's now saying he may take some spring visits and then have a decision as early as late March. That would favor Auburn, okay? He's right there. He's right down the road. He can get there a lot easier. Langston Hughes, where he plays, is a school that has sent guys to Auburn in the past. It's just right down the road. So I think this is going to be one of those classic recruitments, Josh, and you used to talk about this when you were a recruiting writer. This may be one where Florida really likes Tavarstyson, and it appears they do. They may have to play the long game, right? Mm-hmm. If he picks another school in late March, like we all think he might right now with Auburn trending, Florida could continue to recruit him and just kind of hope for the best. Hope that you put together a good season. Hope that you get him back on campus and you impress him. Hope that he likes the play of your young players on your roster and says, hey, I may want to play with these guys. So right now, all signs point toward the arrow is pointing toward Auburn. But if you're Florida, again, if you like what you see and you prioritize him, then you'll probably keep recruiting him, quite frankly, because what we're now seeing more than ever, Josh, is it's not over until they sign, right? And sometimes it's not even over after they sign.
Yeah, you were going to, Keith, you said that Florida needs to play the long game here with Dice. I mean, in this day and age of recruiting, you got to play the long game with your own recruits as well. You got to play the long game with guys that are on your roster nowadays.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess what I meant was if he committed to another school, I don't think you just shut the door on him in particular, or anybody but him in particular, and then just start moving on. Now, you will continue to recruit other guys, and you will probably begin recruiting more and newer guys because, you got to explore all options. But I don't think he's a guy that you would give up on given that frame. He's playing in a winning program. If you're Florida, you have to do well in Georgia. You got to do well in the Peach State, Josh. And it's worth pointing out, Florida has 4 early commitments in the 2025 class. 2 of them are from Georgia. One of them is from the Warner Robins-Macon area, and the other one is a receiver from Woodward Academy, which is right next to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. And again, also right next to Langston Hughes High School, where Tavarstyson plays. So they're going to have to do very well in the state of Georgia. And Dice is a guy that I think they're going to keep the foot on the gas with probably till signing day.
Yeah, the state of Georgia, definitely a battleground state for UF, for Auburn, really for everybody in the country. If they can do well in Georgia, you're doing pretty well. Okay, so these are a few names that we identified early. We know that the spring and even the spring eval period in May will bring more names to this board. But let's take a step back now, Keith. How many offensive linemen does UF need? I mean, they have one in the boat now. So how many more do you think they need to add to really feel like this is a success on the offensive line?
Well, it's always tough. People are saying, Keith, how many are they going to sign? They don't know. So how would I know? In other words,
how many do you think they need?
Well,
how many big bodies?
I think 4 to 6. I think you go into every class, every cycle saying you better sign 4 to 6, because if you sign less than 4, then you're going to have to start playing catch up. And once you have to start playing catch up, it seems like you can never quite get caught up. And that's even, I'm not even talking about the portal. I'm talking about high school guys, 4 to 6 each year. We don't have an exact number for Florida yet for a couple of reasons. One, Josh, we don't know what attrition there's going to be after spring practice, after next season. The staff will gauge people throughout the course of the year. And they may say, there may be a freshman or sophomore at Florida right now, after spring practice, the staff may do their in-staff evaluations and say, it doesn't look like he's progressing. So after this year, he's not going to be with us anymore. And that may open up a spot. Or a guy that you didn't think was progressing 6 months ago, now lo and behold, all of a sudden is, and that may mean one less spot. So I always start with the premise, 4 to 6 guys, Josh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your inside guys can play right guard, left guard, or center, but you got to sign a minimum of 2 tackles each cycle, minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, there's also a lot of attrition at the position. Offensive line is a really hard position to eval, so you got to, throw numbers at the problem. If you sign 4 to 6 every year, you're right, you're going to find some really good offensive linemen in those groups. So we'll see how it plays out. A lot of recruiting left in this class. Keith Niebuhr from Gators Online, thanks for stopping by the Inside Scoop and breaking down some of these top offensive line targets.
Yep, thanks, Josh.
Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed that, go check out the hundreds of videos that we have on this channel, and also do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel.